asked the question before you came back that because the argument was that you think it's passed down, whereas DJ Magic Joe is saying that no. Frances says she thinks it's passed down but learnt too. So you're going to address that?
Yeah. Shall I carry on?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. Yeah, definitely. It is definitely passed down. That's why I explained the thing about it is in the blood.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, of course, as any young person, you will grow up thinking you don't necessarily want to do what your parents are doing. It's very natural, and we can branch off on other sides. But what one thing is quite clear is that no matter whatever you choose to say you want to go and do, there are aspects of that statement, it is in the blood, that will show up in any of the other things that you do. It does show up. But still, it's fine. And I do agree, you can choose another. Like I said, I chose not to be a soldier, but to be a storyteller. But again, my path to declaring this, me saying as I'm a storyteller, was not just a straightforward thing. That's why I talk about the paradigms that we had. The European paradigm that says you have to be, you know, this doctor, lawyer. All of us who are African people, we all have the same pressure. So if you want to be a musician, you're a problem. If you want to say be an artist, you have a big problem. I mean, as a Nigerian, you all know the song that what's his name? Prince Nikombarga sang. I think they call it Songline, you know. Mama, make you no cry, oh. Papa, make you no cry, oh. Now music I go play, oh. Now music be my business. If I play music, you go enjoy, yo. Oh, mama, yeah. Now, that is a very popular song in Nigeria from Prince Nikombarga, who sang Sweet Mother. Because he became a position that his parents were like, you want to be music? You're going to be poor for the rest of your life. I take the same. So when I got to America to train as an actor, or even though I started my training in Sierra Leone, when I got to America to train as an actor, I had a problem. The narrative that was going on in my subconscious was that I wanted to be like the American boys, you know, and do all the rapping. That was my thing, and carry these big cassette players on your shoulder. Those of you who know what a cassette player is, all right?
What was this, in the 70s or 80s?
87. Those days when you put the cassettes in, you put the pen inside the cassette and you're rolling it like that, you know, to remind me to fast forward. But that was my thinking at that time, that was the progress, that was the civilization. So we are told all the time that's the way to be civilized. And so when I got to America looking to be civilized or looking to stick civilization, what I boombox, fine. Boombox, thank you.
Thank you.
So what I found was that, number one, I was by far more knowledgeable than all those I was going to school with there. My acting skills were by far more superior. Movement, everything. I'm telling you, wait a minute. Then it got interesting. They wanted my drum. They wanted my traditional clothing. That shocked me, because coming from my background, that traditional clothes shows you're just a bushman. The drum shows you're illiterate. But people who are Americans that I thought were that much more than me wanted my drum and wanted my traditional clothing. Why for? It got better when I came to England, because now when I came here, I started practicing with theater here with a man called John Adewale. And with John Adewale, we did theater and education, going into different schools, doing African storytelling and drumming and dancing and so on. Then I met a great man called Rufus Orishayomi. He was the first man who started teaching me about Orishas and started teaching me about traditional Yoruba theater. Now, that's not because I didn't learn it in Sierra Leone, but I didn't understand what was being shown to me. The authenticity of the African theater form, the wholesomeness of the African theater form. Because I was told all the time, until you study Shakespeare and study Ben Jonson and study Test of the D'Urbervilles and study Wuthering Heights and all these other books, you are not learned.
Okay.
Rufus started showing me Macbeth in Yoruba. Now, I did the same in Sierra Leone. They literally taught me Macbeth and called it Makuba. And we put all the characters that Shakespeare wrote and put them all in Creole. We did Merchant of Venice. We did the same thing. Shylock, who's a Jew, in Sierra Leone, Shylock was a Fullerman, Sajo. Antonio was Anthony, a Creole man. Bassanio was Bassi, a Mende man. So we got all the characters there. But I did not understand what I was being taught. When I met Rufus Orishayomi, he started teaching me a few things. John Adewale, going into the schools and so on. And I remember Rufus Orishayomi taught me this song. Elumi okereri, moyege modupe, elutiete dog sori oke olumo, lori oke humpetele, ibela baby misio, ibela beta midakbao, ile o mira. Now, I started learning Yoruba songs. But when I was in Sierra Leone, listening to Ebenezer Obey and all those people, I did not get it. When I listened to and actually even performed with what's his name now, with Chief Jebodiah Okologbowoho, alias 430, Gloria, and all these people, I did not get the gem that these people were actually giving. I didn't get it. They were taking African narrative, African theater, right up to the forefront, holding it, the bull by the horn and saying, this is who we are, uncompromising. But the Sierra Leone narrative was really troubled because the Sierra Leone narrative is it has been twisted and turned by the English narrative.
Diluted.
Very, very much. So my perception then was two narratives running. One which was dominant, which was the Western kind of thinking. And then the African one, which was finding its way out in all of my expressions. I denied it all the time. So you asked me what I am, I hardly would tell you I am an African performer. And I was still doing storytelling. For years, I was still doing it. I was doing storytelling, African drumming, African dancing, everything. It was feeding me. It was paying my rent, everything. But never was I actually accepting this is it. Now, so I was like a dog trying to meow like a cat. And this is exactly where many African people find themselves, like dogs trying to meow like cats. You see, because we've been taught certain things about ourselves, so we keep denying. And I was going through that period. It was like what they say in Nigeria. Why look for it in Sokoto when it's in your Shokoto?
Oh.
You see, I was going far. We are all coming to Europe to look for ourselves.
Can you put that in, translate that into English? Why look for it? So let's say, why look for it in Brixton when it's right in your trousers?
When it's right there in your trousers, right there at your doorstep. Why? What's the whole point? And this isn't what many Africans are facing. That we are constantly looking to go somewhere else to find what we already have, and we're the originators of it. In my own opinion, nobody can tell a story better than me, African man. Me, a storyteller. Nobody. And I can challenge anybody on that. But that's my view. But I say that now confidently. Just as good as an Englishman would say, nobody tells a play better than Shakespeare did. Well, I would say nobody writes an African story better than Wole Soyinka did, or better than Chinua Achebe did, or better than Aiko Oyama did, or better than you know, all these other people that we have. But you see, it takes the process for you to begin to realize this, and then you begin to tell your own story. So the process that I had to go through eventually, I reached the point when I started, people were telling me, look, Yusuf, storytelling is your calling.
Yeah.
It's your thing. And I was like, ah, man, storytelling is for, they tell him. And eventually when I said, okay, I am going to do storytelling, things started changing because I went for storytelling competition, just like, okay, enough is enough. I'm going for it now. And of course, it was happening like that. Boom, bang, and so on. Now, it reaches another point because for an ambitious person like me,
yeah,
just storytelling was not enough. Just making a few money was not enough. I want the best out of it. That's the kind of person I am. If I'm going to do this, I want the best of it. So, and it also means I have to be performing at the best place or the highest place or the most significant places. So I wanted to cooperate with it. I wanted to take it another level. But then the ancestors asked me one pertinent question. And that question is simply this: who are you? That question brought problems to my head. It really brought, it's like you have a hot frying pan and then you put water in it and it goes everywhere. I was so baffled. And I bet you right now, many people have got to really stop many times, especially us African. And this time we need to ask that question: who are you? Because you see, if you don't know who you are, how can you really address yourself? Let me put it this way. This is what's happened to us. And I hope you don't mind me. I hope the listeners don't mind me talking on, because you asked me, so I just, is that okay?
We have an hour.
Oh, good. All right.
Well, less than an hour now, so.
Okay, no, fine. It's fine. But these are important because if we're going to talk about myself as a process, myself, I think it's good that I explain this to people to understand this. And I feel it's incredibly, incredibly important. So, Esther, what size shoe do you wear?
Oh gosh, okay, my birthday's coming up soon. So in trainers, I wear size 5.5, 6. In shoes, like high heels, I wear 7. So if it's like top-end designer, it's an 8.
Now, well, let us go to your trainers. Let's go to your trainers.
Yeah.
You say size 5.5. All right, size 5.5. But here's the thing then.
Yeah.
You know something, Esther? You say you wear size 5.5. I tell you what, you know the best thing for you, the best size for you? I tell you, if you wear a size 10, Esther, you would not believe. It is so amazing when you wear a size 10. But guess what? You're still doubting, even though I try to convince you. All right, so I come with a book. And in that book, I put many, many, many things are written in there. And I tell you, according to this, you should wear a size 10. According to, you should wear, when you wear it, I'm telling you, when you die, you go to some place that is so wonderful. Just wear the size 10. You're still doubting. Look, Esther, if you do not wear a size 10, I'll blow your head off. One reason or the other, you accept.
Oh, what are you trying? You're trying to. Okay, let me hear where you're going. Let me let you land.
You see. So now you wear a size 10. When you wear the size 10, you have one problem. You constantly have to fill up for the balance, for the space. Yes, you constantly have to make up for the balance constantly. You either put extra socks on or you put extra paper at the front there, and you don't even walk comfortably with it. My cousin comes to you and says, "Cha, man." He says, Shaolin. He says, "Look, I've got something else for you. You know what you need to wear?" He took off size 10 now. Wear size 3. Size 3. When you wear it, it's just amazing. Again, you doubt. And I come with a book. And I quote all the different people who say it's a size 3. You doubting that one? If you don't, right? So for one reason, you accept a size 3. You now have 2 problems. Number 1, you are constantly trying to fill up the excess, make up for the excess. The second, you are constantly in pain because of
it's too tight.
That is where Africans find themselves. But it gets even better. I now come to your shoe rack in your house, Esther.
Yeah.
I take all your size 5.5s.
Hey.
Now you don't even remember anymore that you wore a size 5.5.
Okay.
I keep all of them. And I even exhibit them and show this is what you used to wear before. But in fact, I now tell you, you got to wear a size 10 and a size 3. So you're constantly in debt because you're trying to fill up, or you're in pain. Even now, when those one come to you and tell you you are a size 5.5, you don't believe them. And in fact, if I find anybody who comes there to tell you you are a size 5, I'll kill them and take them out of the way. Now, that is what's happening to us as African people. And that's what happened to me as an individual. When Rufus Orishayomi was teaching me about my own theater form, I couldn't see it. I was looking at the Western theater form. When they were teaching me about my stories, I said, no, I want to listen to the Indian stories and the Jackie Chan stories, but not my own. Because I have been told that my size 5.5 is witchcraft, is barbaric, it is backward, it is uncivilized, it has nothing, it has no history. This is what's going on. So now we become, again, like I say, you become the dog trying to meow like a cat instead of we just bark.
So we've been trained to try to conform as opposed to live our truth.
Precisely. So now when you're in that position, how the heck can you improve yourself? What respect would you have? A dog in a cat's family. What respect would you have? If you cannot tell your story and stand by it and be prepared to even die for it, what respect do you have? None. And this is the kind of process I went through, because now I started seeking jobs for auditions for stories that have no business with me whatsoever. To seek for stories to tell, I don't know, as I say, the white people's stories. And God bless them, it's their stories. We're in their country. They're going to tell their stories. But what about my own? So I find myself subjected to, you're not good enough. Your accent is not right enough. It's not right enough. Why? That's why I said again, I'm going to look for it in Sokoto when it's in my Sokoto. The day when the ancestors started asking me that question, who are you? If you want to get to this next level, because now you are looking to do something transformative now, Usifu Jalloh. If you're going to go there, you need to know who you are. And that question is what Africans are facing today. I faced it some 6 years ago. Every single day I will wake up because jobs were not coming. I was broke. Bills have to be paid. And I was frustrated.
Yeah.
One morning, I went out. And I was just using my usual morning prayers, morning meditation. I'm going out. And the question was coming, who are you? And then I remembered an interview I did with Newsweek magazine, where the interviewer asked me, he says, who would you say you are? And I casually said, oh, I think I'm an architect for social change and cultural awakening. And this memory came back to me. And I stopped. Cracky. I ran back home. And I wrote it down. I am an actor. I'm a storyteller. I'm a motivator. I'm an educator. I'm an architect for social change and cultural awakening. It was then the lights came on. You see? So many times you have to go, you will go through darkness, because it's only in the darkness will you see your light. I'll repeat that one for people to hear me. Only in the darkness will you see the light. Because many of us are afraid to go through the darkness. Because again, we've been told it's evil, it's bad, it's that. No, the darkness is the best place you could go to for you to see your light. If you don't believe me, those of you who are Christians, Muslims, you're a Christian, I know.
Yeah. So for me, my Christianity is of importance to me. My relationship with God
No, wait. There's a question I want to ask you. When you shut your eyes
When?
to pray, any
Yeah.
Christian, when you shut your eyes to pray, do you still see when you shut your eyes?
Do I still see?
Mm-hmm.
I see visions.
Exactly. You see.
Yeah.
Right. And that vision that you see is unlimited.
Mm.
Good. And that's the point I'm trying to make. That as Africans, we are going to have to go into spaces that have been told to us that is so unright or so not right, that so that we can see ourselves very well. So we can redefine ourselves. Away from what's the African sense? What is the African definition of wealth? What is the African definition of beauty? What is the African definition of all of these things than what the European throw to us?
I completely agree with you. Nonsa, he's a lawyer. He says, the longer you're in the dark, you begin to see clearly.
Absolutely right.
Mm.
Absolutely right.
And I think when you're in that space, you are thirsty. You want to see, you want to know, you want direction, so you seek it more. So sometimes you have to be more in a need in order to hear. Yeah.
I would agree with you. Definitely, I'll agree with you during the need, and then you want to hear. And this is why I said, as African people, this time we're in, it's so crucial. If we are going to say for Africa to be better, for us to tell our stories, because you've invited me here as a storyteller to talk about me, but my life is that much bigger than just this individual telling a story. I don't tell a story for the sake of, here's a story, here's a Ijapa story or a tortoise story, and then go away. No, it's a waste of energy. The Europeans do not tell stories like that. When they tell every story, there's a specific plan and message they're giving to you that sits in the subliminal. This is why they give us a Tarzan story and make us feel worse and think it's the right thing.
So true.
Right.
My question to you is, why is it that we haven't preserved our history? I think you're doing a great job in terms of doing the storytelling, because that's one of the biggest issue where, we didn't necessarily record things, have things written down. It was the elders who told stories and it went on from generation. And now we're losing that. There was times when I lived in Nigeria and I'd hoped that I would, be able to wear my hair like I'm wearing now. And, I was just looking forward to being so free and natural. And people had weaves down to their back. And it was, and I just felt, oh my gosh, this is so pretentious. And when you wear your Ankara prints, there's a label put on you that, you're seen as poor or not wealthy enough because you're wearing what's culturally correct.
Well, I mean, oh God, it's such an important question, because again, I'll go back to that thing. In Sierra Leone, we say, know yourself, not to curse, na good advice.
To know yourself, not to curse,
na good advice.
Na good advice.
Yes, to know yourself, it's not an insult, it's good advice.
Okay.
You see, again, so if we come to what I talk about, being the dog that's meowing like a cat, that dog will never improve itself. So what is happening now with the younger generation in terms of the stories going on? The younger generation, and even now some of the older ones now who are relatively less fortunate, but you're going forward because you've been told, go and study about the Napoleonic Wars. Go and study about Christopher Columbus. Go and study about, and quote Nietzsche and all these different people, as if we never had philosophers. And they will tell you, go on all of them, go and quote them. Then they tell you, Africans never wrote. We did not write. We did not know how to read and write. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We wrote in so many ways that the idea of taking a pen and just writing the way it's written today, for an African, that's too elementary. We
Mm.
wrote in more sophisticated ways, that we even use the women's hairstyle
Yeah.
to write and pass messages. We use
Yeah.
the Ankara designs. We use the Adinkra symbols. We use leaves, and we wrote in so many ways. And we passed on communication. We passed on information to our people.
Yeah.
Today, the Europeans will tell you they're doing code this, that, code that, this. We did all of these things ages ago.
Yeah.
You see, so what I'm saying is that when we now begin to look, as we're going forward with this civilization that we've been told to go for,
Yeah.
what's happening as we're going, we are banging our heads, and we're realizing we're not going forward. What is going on? We're just banging our heads on this glass. Now what's happening is many of our people, many of the young people are now beginning to look back. But they're looking back with fear. Because they've been told that there's a mist back there. And when they look back, it's a mist. It's not clear. It's got an outline, kind of, but it's not clear. And that mist, you've been told that mist is superstitious, is juju, is horrible, is that, it's witchcraft. We've been told all of these things. That's what we've been told.
Hold on, let me read this comment. As Africans, we should accept spiritualism, not the religious connect. Spiritualism is the infinite, allows you to tap into the imaginable or imaginable spaces. Hey, Junior. Junior says, Jesus was the closest to God when he was in the wilderness. Some of the great prophets, with the great prophet, Mahmoud, is that how you say it? Mahmoud? How do you say that word? That name?
Mahmoud.
Prophet.
Let me come
Okay.
there. Okay, Mahmoud, yeah,
Mahmoud.
great prophet Mahmoud, or I don't know if it means Muhammad, but it says Mahmoud there. That's what it's.
Okay. The dog needs to be around other dogs.
You bet.
The analogy you've been using. So for me, when we talk about spirituality, the juju thing, yes, that's exactly what I've been taught in terms of, and I think there's some elements of it where people have used certain things for bad. But for me, what I know and what has worked for me is God, is Jesus Christ that I know. And in terms of when I go into my prayer room, when I'm able to sit and pray, and the way that I hear messages or directions, for me,
But now, okay, now here's what needs to be clear here. I am in no way discrediting or even attacking anybody who's a Christian. That's not even what I'm saying. In fact, I will say clearly here that the more I have looked at my own African spirituality, the better, in fact, I've appreciated what's written in the Bible, the better I've appreciated who Jesus is. And there's something. So I'm not even looking and saying, but there is always an angle that we look at things. And I'm saying here, when we look at things, they say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. All I have simply done is change the way I look at the Bible or Christian or whatsoever, or spirituality. That's all I did. Then when I went to Egypt, I did a whole research that I call backstory. So I had to take time to go to Egypt. I went to a few other countries, and I went all the way to India just to do more research. And when I went, what I found definitely changed my perception, but not just about changing, but improved and deepened my perception.
Okay.
As a storyteller. So I just want to talk this thing about looking back quickly.
Okay.
When now we look back, what you find is that in that mist, for those who have gone back there, like myself or so on, gone back there to find this story, what they begin to find, that's in that place, that's where you find Thomas Sankara. That's where you find Maria Makeba. That's where you find Yas Santua. That's where you find Mansa Musa in that mist. That's where you find the great Mosque of Jannah. That's where you find the great Benin Empire. That's where you find, Oba Ovunware, who built, who governed the whole Benin Empire for such a long time before the British came and mashed up the whole place. You find that's where you find that the Benin walls were longer, 10 times longer than the Great Wall of China. For how many of us know that? In that mist back there that they have called juju and all this stuff, that's where you find.
I don't think that mist is necessarily, in terms of when you say juju and all of that, I disagree with you in that term, because when you talk about Mansa Musa, the richest man, etc., and the pyramids and everything else, the element of that doesn't necessarily come into it, but that is our history in terms of that was the richest man then, and then things were happening. We constructed, we were great architects, etc. That is definitely there, but I wouldn't.
It comes dual, doesn't it? We've got the ugly, that's for sure. If we look into our history, we have got the ugly like nobody's business. I mean, but in that ugly, I could show you a video of an African man doing brain surgery.
Yeah.
In broad daylight, in a village.
Yeah.
Now, the commentator kept talking, calling the man witch doctor. But you and I know if a man like that was there in the late 60s doing brain surgery, he was 98% had more success than Britain. At that time, villager taking a knife, open the skull, removing tumor. Not one, was several. Now, when I showed that in Germany, in a private school where I was teaching, the children asked me, how is that possible? And I said to them, your paradigm tells you that a brain surgeon wears this white gown, sits in this white room with all these lights and blood changing and all this stuff. I'm showing you another paradigm with an African man with leaves and so on, herbs. No, and the patient was awake. 7.5 hours operation. The patient was awake. Not one operation, several. So they could not comprehend that. They think it's not possible. So I'm saying that when we look back at my story,
look at everything.
These are the things I started finding out. These are the things I started realizing. So I cannot be an African storyteller and I only just tell my Ijapa stories. No, this is a time for transformation. So I do transformative storytelling, storytelling that will wake our people up, storytelling that will wake us up to everything possible for our own good.
My question is, when you're doing this, who are your audience? Because a lot of the pictures I've seen, because you just said you went to Belgium, so is it predominantly Caucasian kids, white kids that you're doing this to, or European children, or is it mostly black?
It is all over the whole place. I've been to India, China, South America, of course, Europe. I've gone to South Africa and done work there as well with lots of other young people, Kenya as well, and so on. So it's all over the whole place. I've just done something for Nigeria, which is going to be shown very soon. But I guess, you know, Esther, because I know when I sometimes express what I express about my own process, my own life that I've gone through, I'm very strong and passionate about it. And I touch on so many different areas that sometimes what of course can be sensitive, especially when it comes to spirituality and so on.
Yeah.
But this is why I'm saying, unless we can confront it and go in that darkness that seems uncomfortable, we'll find it hard to see the light. And that's what I'm saying, that these are conversations that as African people, we have to have, because we've got diverse ways of looking. Then when we have these conversations, our stories become richer.
Okay.
For me, how I see
so you made a point about going back, and you talked about you telling the story of the brain surgeon and etc. So why is Africa in the state that it is today? If we have so much at hand in order for us to be able to improve it. And for example, even the way we treat each other, you know, we talk about the movement that's happening right now with the SARS movement, the police brutality, you know, and I heard an interview today where a police officer, a lady, was saying she's been in the police force for 17 years and her salary monthly is 60K. Now, 60K Naira is, I don't know if I try and divide it, not more than £300 or £400 a month that she's getting paid. Now, how was she able, how do the government expect her to survive on that? So when we talk about how brilliant we are, how much resource we had, why haven't we implemented it today? What's going on with us?
Okay. Different things. The first one is what I call ideological subversion. Ideological subversion is where your perception of your reality is so lopsided, it is so warped that you lack the ability to defend the interest of yourself, your family, your community, and your country. That's ideological subversion. There are different stages to it. The first stage is demoralization, where everything I tell you, Esther, look at your nose, look at how big it is. Leave me, Esther. Your hair is rubbish. You need to have this kind of hair. Your lip, what's that now? I demoralize you. So when I demoralize you, which the history of that is plentiful, you now don't see any value in anything that you have, even your food. Even when we cook our food, people come and tell us what kind of food is that with too much pepper.
Yeah.
Well, don't eat it. If not, it's not your food.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we lacks the ability even to defend our own food. Now, that is one. The next thing from demoralization comes destabilization. Because you've been demoralized, you think it's something else you need to take on to make you feel better. So we come in with the so-called learned men, book men. We come in with police force. We come with all the who think they're the ones now who should put there. And what do they bring? Destabilization. Because the way they are practicing has no bearing to our cultural values.
Yeah,
So
it's for their own good, not for us anyway.
Precisely.
Yeah, for their own benefit.
Those officers who are in ZAS, Sierra Leone, we have ISU, SSD, we've got all of them. Who are they? They were set up by foreigners. To do what? To demoralize us. So they bring destabilization. Then we have leaders who come to Europe to study. What do they get? It's an education system. When they come and oppress us because they owe allegiance now to those who've educated them. They bring destabilization because now they see you and me who've not been abroad, who are not lettered, as they put it. They see those people as poor and undeserving of anything good. Destabilization.
Deep.
After destabilization comes crisis. So now, the next thing we go into in Africa is crisis. So now we have,
oh my God.
So now it's heavy. Are you there? All right. The message is heavy. The message is heavy. The discussion is heavy. So the next thing we get to, as I said, is crisis.
Yeah.
So now we have a coup d'etat that destabilizes the economy. Then we have another rebel war. It destabilizes the economy. We're not focusing on building anything. Nigeria, you've had the Biafra war. Sierra Leone, we just had these 10 years of war, what they call blood diamond kind of war. Liberia had theirs, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Rwanda had theirs. Thankfully, they've overcome all of that. So is Botswana, so does Zimbabwe, South Africa, all of them. That is crisis. And so we tear each other apart. And then comes the most dangerous place, normalization. This is where to stand and piss anywhere in the street, to throw rubbish in the streets, to beat your woman to pulp, to cause an insult in the streets and whatever becomes normal. The politician who steals money, this one thief billion, this one thief money, and where do they bring the money? They bring it over here. Where do we all run to come to? We still want to come to Europe and America. That's normalization, and that's the most deadly place. Because even when our people are dying in hospitals, it is normal for us to die of malaria.
It's become the norm to have an accident on the road that's not fixed, and you know, the fear, everything. Oh man.
Now, so you see, so now it becomes normal for SARS to go about arresting young men and killing them. Why? Because it's normal for the older generation to sacrifice the younger generation instead of the older generation sacrificing themselves to build so that they can become fertilizer for the younger ones to grow and blossom. And this is where we are at. These are 4 major reasons I give to you. So demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and then normality. These 4 is putting us in problem. So if we just look at ourselves, we ask why we are where we are. We go back to that question that I asked earlier on. What shoe size do you wear? Remember I said that. If you don't know, you're a size 5.5 anymore. Even when I show you your size 5.5, you'll probably insult me.
Yeah.
This is where Africans need to be. And for me as a storyteller, it is said, if I quote Chinua Achebe and I put it in my own way, stories are the palm oil with which wisdom is swallowed. The success or failure of every nation, person, community is the success or failure is entirely dependent on the narrative that you perceive, that you conceive, that you believe, and eventually act upon. Your success or failure, anybody, any community, is entirely dependent on the narrative that you perceive, that you conceive, that you accept or believe and act upon. So we got to ask ourselves, what story, what narrative are we accepting of ourselves? And that is, for me as a storyteller, these are the realizations. When I was asked that question, who are you? And I use the word here, my ancestors asked me that question. And as a Christian, you're like, what do you mean ancestors? Oh yes, ask me that question, who are you? When I came to the realization who I am, it taught me one thing which is so important, acceptance. Back to again the phrase, dog meowing like a cat. When the dog did not accept that it's a dog and it thinks it's a cat, one day that dog will meet a cat that is not a pussycat. Right. You know what I mean? Right. That dog will realize there is a bigger cat, and that cat don't mess about. That cat will nyam you good and mash up your nyash.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's pause there and read some of the comments, and you could maybe take some questions. Bomfem says Africa has a rich and diverse history. If anyone has any questions, please put it in the question box. Some not so good. We need to take of the good from our past history and incorporate them into the now and the future. This will be the balance. Okay. Junior says true. So I guess everyone's been, in terms of agreeing with what you said before. Good question. I'm assuming it's a question that I asked. This is bad. Okay. Nancy the lawyer said to me, 60K is £120. So it's not even up to £400. Jeez. Can you imagine living on £120 a month? And how much is her rent? She's got 2 kids. It's terrible. And yet the politicians get 20 times that. Okay, ideological subversion, question mark. Donkeys, Bomfem says donkeys were historically good for transportation of goods historically, but the train cars are better. We cannot be selective in what we take from history. Okay. Thank you, Paris Place. Demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. Yeah, I wrote those down too. I think you really did well explaining that. Paris Place says, how do you take your power back? Junior says bars. Everyone says preaching. Non-so-dag says, I love this. Almost broke my thumb. And I almost broke my phone. You know, taking it off the stand, thinking, oh, my hair in here. But I think you're, like you are, a great storyteller. And the way you've explained it, let me just go to my notes. So when you talk about, you explain colonization really well in terms of how we were taken and I guess almost belittled in order not to know our true worth and value ourselves. And the steps you've put down makes complete sense in terms of breaking down a nation and a person. And I'm proud of what I'm seeing in terms of Nigerians and the youth trying to take their power back. And like you said, how can a nation have elders who are not willing to sacrifice for the better good of those that are coming up? Because in the next 10 years, there won't be anything left in the reserve for Nigeria if we're not careful. And I guess the same for you in Sierra Leone.
10 years. Sierra Leone, there's already nothing left in the reserve.
Oh my gosh. Like, why?
We don't have a reserve anymore. Now, I think you, I mean, I'm so happy with your, you know, all the comments people are making, and I'm glad that, you know, people are commenting the way they're commenting.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier on, these are conversations we need to have as a people. We cannot keep calling the Europeans to come anymore. We have to have this conversation. We have to look the bitter, the ugly, the sweet, and the delicious. Everything we've got to really piece together and then find our way through all of this. Anybody who is interested in searching more, like I said, as a storyteller, again, people, when people don't, you know, people look at what they say storyteller, when people think, okay, just come and you tell the fables. No, I read profusely. And it's important because if I'm going to tell stories, I've got to make sure they all connect. It's what we say, the truth in the lie. You know, you find the truth in the lie. So if anybody's interested in extended reading, please look for Stephen Biko's I Write What I Like. Stephen Biko, I Write What I Like. Get it and read it. And then you can get to grips as to where we need to be going, what we should be doing, what every other nation has done, which is what I did individually when I asked that question, who am I? And where was I going? So I faced the one thing of knowing hey, I'm an African.
Yeah.
The other part is the acceptance. And that is sometimes the most difficult bit. The acceptance. In other words, I accept I am a storyteller. I am an African. I accept every nook and cranny. As a storyteller, sometimes jobs don't come that often. I get broke. As a storyteller, you know, not everywhere I might be seen as anything significant because of the way the paradigm is. I accept that.
Yeah. Or you are of importance.
Right. And that's all that matters to me. And now, the day I came to acceptance, something magical happened, if I may say magical. I would say natural. The whole world revolved around me. I was the center of the world. I became the center of the world, which is what everybody should be. And the traditional African way is to raise a child to become the center of the world. Why do I say that? As a storyteller, because I've accepted it, I now all of a sudden see how I connect to every other thing else in the world. So you can put me among doctors and I can tell a story that is about healing, and a story about healing mentally. I can tell a story about healing your body. I can tell a story to inspire doctors. Today, there are many, many organizations calling me, including the Premiership, calling me to do storytelling on mental health. Am I a doctor? No. But guess what? Yes, I am a storyteller that unravels the tangled up narrative in the head, and I straighten it out for you to see the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's the power of storytelling. The world revolves around me. You can take me to architects, and I can tell them a story to help their work. You can take me to anywhere, from the grassroots children right across the board. Anybody. As an architect or as anything, when you accept who you are, the whole world will revolve around you. That's when they say the truth will truly set you free because you're true to yourself. Then nothing worries you anymore. You face a peace that passes understanding.
All understanding. Woohoo!
So,
my prince, you have educated me, as you know. let's talk about where you are now. And I know there's a film that's been done in regards to you. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, where we can watch that.
Yes. Well, the film itself is called The Cow Footprints. It's about my life, my story, and it is primarily about overcoming adversity.
Okay.
Because many people who probably are watching me here, you don't know, when I came to England, I was sleeping out in the streets. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I was just a vagrant, literally. When I came here, I was a young man at the age of 20, and I had nowhere to sleep. Literally, I was just a beggar in the street.
Wow.
And one thing led to another. And, you know, I eventually found somewhere to stay gradually. And the Yoruba man helped me out eventually. And I got a place to stay in his house. And time went on, get job, you know, so on and so forth. So the film, and then, you know, later on, my dad was killed by the military when the military took over. And those were challenging times. And up till now, it's still affecting me, of course, as you can expect. But the film is about looking at that, my life as a performer, as a person, and how you overcome adversities. So the film is being shown around the world at the moment. And it's, if anybody's interested, of course, in watching it, then I can give them the, you know, because it's still on private viewing for now. It's called The Cow Footprints, yeah. But there's another film as well I did, which anybody can see. Again, if you go to my YouTube channel, Usifu Jalloh, if you go there, the film is called Journeyman. There's another one called The Narratives We Tell, all on YouTube. Yeah, The Narratives We Tell. Again, I did that one in Colombia. And then Journeyman I did here in Wales. Powerful film again about, you know, because you see many times as African people, when we go to a place, we look at the place and we consider how the place affects us. Not often do we think of how we affect the place.
Or how we can make a change in the place.
Exactly.
You know, yeah, because, you know, when you have the Asian community, they come in somewhere and they try and take over or make an impact. You know, they immerse their culture into places, whereas we tend to hide away.
Precisely. And the thing is, we have been making impact for generations, for many millennia. You understand? But like I said, this is the journey I had to go through. When I went through the journey, so now I see all the impacts we've made spiritually, all the impacts we've made technologically, and so on. I know one of the person was talking about, you know, donkeys or camels back then, and the trains and so on. Well, it is great, definitely.
In terms of moving forward with the times.
In terms of moving forward with the times, of course, all is fine, and there's no issue at all with that.
Yeah.
But, however, let us consider this. Today in Europe, in America, in China, they are looking to say we got to cut down the cars because of the illnesses that the fumes are giving to us. Aha! They're talking these industries are polluting. They're giving all, and we're seeing it. So now let us ask ourselves, just in 200 years, this civilization, industrialization that has given us this mobile phone and all this different stuff is bringing us to extinction almost. This civilization has made elephants come close to extinction, rhinos come close to extinction, water pollutions, fish resources stocks are going down, and it goes on and on and on. What did our people know? That for thousands of years,
they didn't. Oh.
What did our people know? You see what I'm saying?
That's an interesting angle to look at it. Because then you now have some Europeans who are going back to basics and living off solar power and, you know, using their you know, to whatever, recycle certain waste.
You are getting my point now. You see, what is the relationship with our people in land to land versus look at the relationship between land in terms of the European sense, how they see it. Europeans see exploitation. Exploit.
But then the flip side of that could be that if we didn't have technology and things moving on, there's a lot of invention we wouldn't have today. Okay, so the question is this. Are we any happier?
This is the most comfortable generation in the history of humankind. Are we any happier? No. We are probably more stressed now than ever before. So what is the purpose? The purpose is just to make money. They just want to make money and power and domination. Now, so this is why I'm saying, when I'm looking back, I'm not saying, let us bring back camels. I'm saying we're going to question. We're going to question. And we as Africans have got to define our own. What is our own definition of civilization? Where is humanity? You go to Africa, you meet that poor person, they will share everything with you. Here, the rich person would not even want to share with you. Humanity. What are all these definitions? What's our own? So this is what I'm saying. This, as I said, dogs trying to meow like a cat. China's story, they locked all their borders when they saw what the French and the English did to them and the Japanese did to them. They locked everything and says, we're only going to get it the Chinese way. Today, what are we doing now with China? Everything is from China. They have got it the Chinese way. When I went to China, no WhatsApp. I have to use their own WeChat.
Their own, that's true. That's true.
It comes from the dogged determination. Like Thomas Sankara said. Thomas Sankara says, we're going to do it our own way. We are not going to sit down and pay different. We're changing the story. We're changing the narrative. Thomas Sankara stood up. But what happened? Because he was killed. In Sierra Leone, we have Baibure. Baibure also stood up against the British in 1898 and says, you cannot ask me to pay tax for my house that I built. Where he come from? Right. He stood up. But you see, so where we are as Africans now, we have to question. Not because we're flying everywhere, that means it's good for us. In a few short years, we will not have forest enough for our children coming up. So everything has to change. Can we Africans then be the leaders in this, in how we appreciate nature, in the new technology that Africans bring?
26 seconds remaining.
No problem. So I'm going to end there. So can we Africans be the ones to lead the way in a new narrative for humanity? Can we be?
Fantastic. And African narrative is important because
it is the only way forward. It's the only sensible way forward. The African narrative.